Hello, everyone. It's Julie Boye here of the Wake Up with Gratitude podcast. I'm very excited to be bringing you another special guest for one of my self-love interviews. So welcome, Dina.
Thanks for having me, Julie. So good to see you.
Yeah, this is so fun. We're reconnecting. So Dana Peaver is the creator of the Decision Smith system and app. And we've met, it's probably been 6 or 7 years since we first connected. And I remember when you were telling me about the system and the app, and I started learning and understanding what you did. And I was like, this is incredible. And I've just seen your career grow and the number of people you've helped. And then you did this really cool thing called the Year of Dina challenge for your 50th birthday year. And now you've got a book coming out. There's so much goodness for us to share with my audience today. And I'm just so happy that you reached out and said, can I share some of my stories on your podcast? And that's really what we're here to do is, I want to hear about your story. Like, how did you become the Decision Smith? And where did you get the idea for putting a book together? Everybody wants to write a book. So I'm so excited that you're finally launching your book. So I'm going to pass it to you, Dana, if you want to give us a little bit of an intro and kind of a few steps in your story of kind of how you got to where you are today.
Sure, Julie. Thanks so much. And thank you for, putting that all together, because you kind of sometimes forget everything that you're involved in or things that you have on the go. And then for somebody to say it out loud like that, it really kind of puts it all together. About 30 years ago, I was sitting in a psychology class in university, and I had been presented with this huge matrix on decision making. And, I really saw the validity in it sitting there in the classroom. But I there was pages and pages and spreadsheets, and, I was just, my mind was boggled. But, that stuck with me. I went away from that lecture knowing that there was great flow and process in what was offered. But we as human beings who, weren't going to school for psychology, didn't need to know research methodologies and that kind of thing, could still benefit from having some kind of system to make decisions in our lives. So, what that precipitated was a 30-year-long love affair with decision making. And, here I am 30 years later. I really spent a lot of time figuring out how I could put decision-making in a nutshell for the layman, make it really simple, really standardized, but really effective. So, over the course of, like I say, it took me probably about 15 years or so to really develop the process and hone it. And that's when I started sharing it with clients that I was working with. Before that, I had been testing it on myself and making some great decisions. Throughout that time, I met my husband, used the system to decide whether or not we should get married, where we were living, what house to buy, what vehicles to buy, what, vacations to take, what careers to choose. Just it's got so much flexibility and adaptability to whatever system you need it for. So, I spent all that time working through myself, making great decisions, and then, starting to share it with other people. And the response was fabulous. People were like, where has this system been all my life? Because it's really foolproof. And I think what I like most about it is the fact that, some people are right-brained, some people are left-brained. What it does is it marries kind of the analytical side, or, the people that have a mathematical bent, with the people who might, just rely on their gut instincts or their intuition and that kind of thing. So it's a process that, marries the two. For those who don't think they're empathetic enough, it brings that into the fold for them. And oppositely, if people don't feel like they're doing things from a black and white perspective well enough, it really, marries those two. So we've had great success, and here I am. We launched the app a couple of years ago, the Decision Smith, and it's available in iTunes and Google, and that's had great response. People come to me all the time saying, where has this been all my life? We need to be teaching this in schools. Kids need to know this. So it's really energizing.
That's amazing. And I just want to highlight one part of your story that I think is very powerful. It was one moment in one class. that you were exposed to something that just really sparked an idea that really affected the course of your life in a pretty dramatic way. And
Absolutely.
I think that that power of one moment to shift your life in one direction or another is something we sometimes overlook. But when we look back at the story, we're like, no, it was that one thing that happened there that led to kind of where we are today. And I invite our listeners to kind of think back a little bit about, where am I today? It was probably one or two little things that just set us on our course. And maybe having something like the Decision Smith might help somebody to get to that next point in their life where it's like, this is the defining moment.
Sure, choosing a career, choosing
Right?
a husband.
Yeah. That's a
moment.
cool thing is like your exposure to this decision tree and all this complicated stuff, you created something that's so much easier to work with, but is so valuable because it's sometimes the one decision that makes, and it's like you said, it's not about putting all the weight in that one decision, but it's like the ability to use your strategy and your system to be able to make a decision that's aligned with who you are, whether you're left brain or right brain, however you think, that alignment. So I'm excited. We're going to put links to make sure people can download the app, whether they're on Android or iPhone, whatever is best for them. And then
Great.
do you talk about it on I'm guessing on your website as well?
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. So we can go into more detail for that, which is fantastic. But I want to talk about a couple other fun things too, before we get to the book, which I know everyone's waiting to hear about the book. But before we get to that, I love this idea of self-love and rituals and being kind to ourselves. And I remember watching you share the Year of Dina on Facebook. And I thought, first of all, that's a big commitment to commit to something for a year. Absolutely. But second of all, I thought, what a nice way to treat yourself for a big milestone birthday. So how did you come up with this? Were you inspired by something? What kind of was the catalyst for you to do this Year of Dina?
In all fairness, I've shared that I'm married. Mike and I have been together 26 years now. My kids are 19 and almost 17. So probably like a lot of your listeners, we're moms, we're wives, we're busy with careers or, whatever it is that takes up our day. And we really don't put ourselves first. I'm sure you can relate to going to the store and buying your daughter the brand name running shoes, and you're, scrimping on whether or not you should buy yourself a $29.99 top at Winners or something, So we're well, maybe not, but anyway.
Oh no, I'm nodding in agreement.
Okay.
Yeah. I definitely, my 9-year-old needs new shoes, and she has 2 brand new pairs, and my husband and I both need to replace our shoes. So
right.
I totally get that.
Right. So, leading up to my 50th birthday, which happened last year, my kids are grown, they're self-sufficient, they've got jobs, they're in, post-secondary or whatever. And I really found myself with a little bit more time. I think one of the other things, and we talked about me posting a lot of pictures of my view now. 2 years ago, we also made the decision as a family to move from our 4,200 square foot home to a 1,600 square foot condo on the water. So, big changes there, but oh my goodness, did it free up my time. Like I couldn't imagine how much free time I would had. So, last year provided me with the opportunity and the forum to really look at what it was that made me happy, and maybe things that I'd been, pushing aside that weren't being made priority while I was being the best wife and mom I could be. And I really, in all transparency, I'd put on a little bit of weight. I felt a little frumpy. I'd really gotten to a stage in my life, I was 49, and I thought, I've had a good run. And isn't that sad to hear me say that? I've had a good run. It's maybe kind of time to pass the baton to the next generation. I should just, and I was like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
what are you saying? So I said to myself, all right, I'm only going to turn 50 once. I've got the medium, the forum, the time. What can I do to make this extraordinary? because most people who know me know that I'm, I'm not necessarily a wallflower or quiet or anything, but so for me to go above and beyond, it was going to have to be pretty substantial.
Yeah.
And I sat back and I thought, what could I do for myself as a gift, really? What is my 50th birthday present to myself? And so I gave it to myself, I made lists of things that I'd always wanted to do or attempt, or, Julie, so simple as, getting my nails done. That was something that the kids were always a priority, or, you were running to baseball games or gardening or something. It just didn't fit. So now it fits. So it was really impactful for me to take a look at what was important, what made me happy, and make sure that I actioned it, not just talk about it. And I have a list on my phone in my notes of there are over 100 things that I did last year to celebrate #Year of Dina.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
I know. I look at the list now and I'm like, whoa, I forgot about that. It was incredible. It was a great year.
And then you've put it together in a way that other people can access it now, right? Because I didn't know that. I was, reading your book and your intro in your book, and it's like Year of You challenge. I'm like, oh, she's put it together in a way that now we can do it. So where do we find that if we're like, this sounds like a really cool idea? And I think I read that you start with just 5 days.
Mm-hmm. You do.
So tell me more about that.
Sure. It's easy. yearofyouchallenge.com.
Okay.
So as simple as it sounds. And really, Julie, what I really wanted to do with this challenge, and again, you've got to be honest. That's one of the things that if you're ever working with me or involved in anything, I don't put up with fluff. I make you go deep to the core. So if that's what you're ready for and prepared for, this is the right challenge for you. But it's not onerous or hard. They're really simple exercises, but it's really taking stock of where you are in your life and where your happiness is currently derived from, and seeing that, on paper. Because I think you can think about it, but when you have to write it down, and really, really be honest, because I think you're more honest when you see something in print. It's a really good reflection as a start of the challenge. And then I walk you through a few things. One of the key and probably most pivotal exercises that we do is really to identify what you're tolerating in your life. And I have people who are in tears going through that exercise. But then we come up the other side and say, okay, you've acknowledged it. What do we do about it? And that kind of really springboards you to, making yourself a priority. And whether it be a year or a month or even a week, the opportunity for you to put you on your own pedestal is priceless. And I can't express to you what last year was like for me.
Well, I'm glad you put it in a way that people can access, because the birth of this podcast was actually from something I did for myself, which was 30 days of self-love back in October, November of last year. And I started doing interviews with people to ask them, like, what are you doing for self-love? Because right now I'm not loving myself at all. Things aren't working. I don't feel good about myself. So I wanted to hear from other people what they were doing. And I like that you put it together in a way that's simple, like you said, for 5 days or 30 days or a year or whatever. I do highly recommend considering at least a month of this kind of work, because it's worth it. And even though I did it for a month, the self-love interviews and the work really continues. And we're talking, it's been almost 8 months since I started this work, and definitely not the same kind of investment as the Year of Dina, but certainly bits of what you shared have rubbed off on the way that I'm treating myself. And I appreciate that, because many women, especially as we're in this 40s, 50s, age range where kids don't need us as much as before. Maybe we're in a career transition because we've maybe been at home more, or now we're coming back to home. There's lots of transitions happening. So
absolutely,
it's a good time to pay attention to what brings us joy. And that's a big thing. When I sign my books, I say, may your days be filled with love, joy, and gratitude. Why wouldn't we want to live that way? So I'm excited. I will link to that as well. So it's a good transition, I think, to go into now. You wrote a book.
I did.
You wrote a book, and it's called The Decision to Purge. And there's a lot going on inside of this book. I got to see a short preview. I am very excited to read the entire book.
Thank you.
Can you share just a little bit of an overview of what this is about? Because it's a collection of stories, right?
It is. And the whole title of the book is called The Decision to Purge, the Year the Skeletons Fell Out of the Closet.
Mm.
So, that relates to a specific year. And the book is really a compilation of stories of 15 women that I worked through different degrees of decision making that particular year. And it really, at the end of the year, I sat back and I digested what I'd gone through from a decision making process, with these women, and felt that the story needed to be told, and mostly just to be able to relate to other women and help them see a path forward to goodness and to happiness, and to maintaining a life of gratitude, because I think that's really what all of these women have done, through the conversations we had and through the decisions that they've made in their lives. Some of them were really tough decisions, some not so tough, but still impactful and pivotal in their lives.
Well, I read a few of the stories, or at least parts of the stories in your media kit, which was, first of all, there is a warning that some of the stories can be very triggering, which, when we talk about subjects like I tend to talk about, my experiences with miscarriage and other types of trauma, and my daughter, and, the issues that she's been through with anxiety and, all the fears and everything. When we talk about these difficult things, and in your book, you talk about different types of abuse, like these things can be really triggering for us. And what I noticed almost right away, even from just the short bits that I read, is this gives a woman, or potentially a man, or of any gender, a place to go, someone else feels like me. And then you bring it to a decision and a change. And that, I think, is sharing a story by itself is powerful. Then sharing a story of someone who's gone through it and come out the other side, I think that's what's really magical about what you've written.
Well, I appreciate that. And I think the thing I love, and I'm so passionate about what I do, is just that. We've got these women who have come out the other side, but I can show you how they did it. It's like, here you go. Yeah. Here it is, on your phone. You can do it too. And that's what brings me the most joy, I think.
I think that's so powerful too. Like this ability that we are in charge of our decisions. We can make those tough decisions, and you've provided us tools to help us through those tough decisions, as well as support. I mean, going through really difficult things like this, we need support. And I meant to ask you a little bit about your year, your Year of Dina challenge. Like, did you do it all by yourself? You must have had some support, I'm guessing. Well,
in all fairness, and my husband may watch this, he hates it when Year of Dina is mentioned, just because I was never home that year. Last year, I traveled quite extensively. I was, I made the most of every dinner and coffee and lunch and that kind of thing. My family was supportive. I think by the November and December, they were like, okay, is the year over yet?
Did you work also with a trainer, like for the gym?
I didn't.
You did it all by yourself?
I did it all by myself. That's
amazing. But we can acknowledge that those of us who need the support can hire a trainer, right? Those Absolutely. Of us who need a support to go through trauma and to deal with those emotions can also, while using the system and the app that you offer and the book, if we need help from a licensed therapist, those things are all important to know, that like we all need different kinds of support. You couldn't have done that without your family support. There's no way. Like
exactly.
Would have torn your family apart.
Exactly. I did have a lot of support. The gym was, I'd been exposed to a lot of methodologies prior to that,
Right.
that led me being able to culminate it and, losing 30 pounds last year.
I'm
So
so proud of you, my friend. That's
thank you.
amazing.
It was
And,
fun.
I have a lot of conversations with trainers and things about weight and weight loss. And it's like, but that was for you. And that was your joy. And you did it for you. You didn't do it because you wanted to, like, you were trying to impress other people. You did it for you. And I think that's a powerful gift. So Dana, you have so much to offer us. You've created so many beautiful things for us. This book is just about to launch. What are the details about the book? When is the actual launch date and how do we get it?
Well, the launch date, I love the dates. I'm a stickler with numbers and that kind of thing, if you haven't figured that out. So it's actually 07/07/2020. So July 7th. So just, not far away now. And it's going to be available on Amazon via Kindle to begin with. And then we'll have the print copy version available shortly after that.
Awesome. And it's, you doing global distribution on the Kindle?
I am.
Oh, great. For English,
Yes.
in English,
Yes.
of course.
Yes.
That's exciting. So we want to make sure that on July 7th, we purchase our Kindle copy, of course, because there's nothing more exciting than launching your book and creating an Amazon bestseller. So I'm excited. I will grab my copy that day as well.
Thanks,
and we'll make
Julie.
sure that so you might be watching this before the book launches because we are recording this a bit in advance. So maybe just throw a quick reminder in your calendar and follow Dana on social media so that you know and you don't miss that very special day. So where do we find you on social media?
So I just want you to remember the Decision Smith. So
Okay.
That's a handle that I have. That's my website. That's Instagram. That's Twitter, Facebook, wherever you need to find me. The Decision Smith will point you in the right direction.
Amazing. And we can also find you on LinkedIn as well.
You can either the Decision Smith or Dana Peever, whichever you prefer.
Fantastic. And we can't forget, we've got yearofyouchallenge.com as well.
Absolutely. Great.
And I think, so one of the things that I always ask before I wrap up my interviews is, I'm thinking you'll be able to make this decision easily, but maybe not. I ask my guests to share if people could do one thing today. They could change something, they could start doing something or stop doing something that would have a positive impact on their lives. What would that be for you?
Wow. That's a great question, Julie. But I really think it's easy for me to answer. And it's going to be around decision-making. I feel like people don't make decisions because they don't know how. So if you could give yourself the gift of acknowledging that there is a process out there that you can utilize and learn, it will change your life. People get paralyzed because they don't know where to start with decision making. So, tackle it. Don't put it off. The weight of not making a decision can, affect your health and everything. So just next time you have a big decision to make sure that just grab the opportunity to make the best decision for you. And I say it's kind of like riding a bike. Once you learn this system, and you use the app and that kind of thing, it actually corroborates your intuition, which is, another kind of sub factor of one of the benefits. So that over time, because I've had people using the system for 15 years, they don't actually go back to the app anymore. Their intuition is so strong that they know, they go through the process in their head. So if you can give yourself that, changing one thing you do between today and tomorrow, that's what I would recommend.
Perfect. And not surprising, but you said something there that I believe you taught me, which is that when you're not making the decision, you're actually making a decision. You're making the decision to not make a decision. So don't think you're avoiding a decision because you're not making it.
Yeah.
You're still making a decision.
Exactly.
It's just terrible. Then you're stuck. And, I don't want to go back into it too deeply, but if you put that as one of your options in the app
it actually scores it for you and tells you how bad not making that decision is. So that's one of the things I love. You know, each option that you put through gives you a mathematical score and percentage. So if if what you're doing right now gives you a negative percentage, like, hello, are you living your best life? Anyway, we could talk about this for hours, Julia. I'm sure.
We could. But I just wanted to point that out, that when we forget that, like, the act of not making a decision is also a decision. And so let's change that. So, and you've provided us with so many tools for that. So Dina, I've loved our time together. And I want to quote you because I love your tagline from your book, which is make great decisions and do life fun. What an awesome way to live. Thank you for all the gifts that you shared with us today. It's been such a joy and a pleasure to have you on the podcast. Please make sure that you are on your Amazon on July 7th. And by the way, if you're listening to this on July 7th, 2020 has come and gone, guess what? You can still buy the book. So it's The Decision to Purge, the year the skeletons fell out of the closet.
Correct.
Saying that correctly?
That's a mouthful, eh?
All right. Perfect. Thank you so much, Dina, for being here on the podcast.
Thanks so much, Julie.